and welcome to the YakAngler workshop. I'm your host, Greg the Hammerhead Crisp, and today we'll be setting up a rear-mounted drag anchor on my Jackson Coosa. For the materials for this project, you'll need an anchor of some sort. For this project, I'm using a 4.5 pound window sash weight. You'll need a small dog leash. This is a flexi leash. It's the type that has the string instead of the webbing that winds up into the handle. You'll need some paracord and some heat shrink, as well as some needles and thread. The first thing you want to decide on this project is how you're going to run the leash to the back of the kayak. On the Jackson Coosa, it's really easy because this kayak was designed with this setup in mind. The handle, the leash just snaps right into the handle. They've already mounted some pad eyes on to run your line through. It's got a track right here that the window sash weight or a drag chain will slide right up into. It's really nice. Now if you don't have a Jackson Coosa, you just have to do the same thing, replicate the same track on your kayak. Figure out where to mount a couple pad eyes. A lot of kayaks have a groove in the back of it where the rudder would fold up into. If you don't have a rudder, it makes a perfect track to run the string through. Just put a pad eye right across the top. It'll hold it in place. If you don't have a place where the leash snaps into, just take a zip tie, zip it to your handle or your seat or some other place where it's convenient for you to get to. The leash that I bought that fits into my kayak is 16 feet long. And I know most of the time I'm anchoring in about 10 feet of water. Well, if I was to take this leash and run it to the back of my kayak, I'm going to lose 5 to 6 feet of that length right there on the kayak. So I'm going to want to extend this leash slightly. On top of it, the leash has a piece of webbing on the end that will not fit through the pad eye. So I'm going to show you how to adapt this leash to a piece of paracord. I'm going to use that paracord to tie on to my weight for an anchor, and then we'll mount it up on my kayak and get it all set up. The first thing you're going to want to do is disassemble the leash and get this webbing off of it. Pull out a length of the leash, lock it in place. Now I've learned this the hard way. Tie a knot, loose knot in the string. That'll keep it from, in case you bump it, from retracting all the way in and losing the string. Next, you got to figure out how to take this piece apart. Normally it's pretty simple. Normally you just pull them apart. There's a little knot in here. Just untie the knot. Pull it through. Pull this out. Set it aside. Sure, we'll find something to use that for later. And then you have your string. Okay, so once you have your leash taken apart, the first thing you want to do is pull back the paracord and pull out the center fibers on the paracord and just snip them off. I like to remove about 2 inches of it. Then you're going to take the paracord, push it back down. That's going to leave a hollow center. So then it's easier if you take your heat shrink tubing, cut it to the length you're going to want. Go ahead, slide it down your leash. It'll be much easier to do it now than to try to slide it up over the paracord when you're done. Take the leash and now you're going to slide it down in the center of the paracord that you just snipped off. Okay, so once you got that all the way down, want to make sure you got your paracord worked up. leash is all the way in. Now you're going to sew that together. You're going to put the needle and thread. For the thread, I'm using just 15-pound Power Pro. I had it left over after spooling a reel the other night. And just sew that together. I'm going to go back and forth through it a couple times and wrap it around. Get a nice, real tight, clean fitting that'll slide through the pad eyes with no issues. Now once I've gone back and forth through it, I'm going to wrap it from the original end, keeping it tight down to the new end. This is going to give you a nice, sleek, tight connection that'll slide right through the guides you installed on your kayak. I'm going to go back down to the other end. There we go. Go ahead and snip off the tag end. That is all set. Gives you a nice tight connection. That's not going anywhere. Go ahead and slide down your heat shrink tubing so that it covers that thread, gets it nice and centered. Go ahead, take your heat source, start getting it hot, and hold that heat shrink over it. Remember that this is nylon rope. It will melt, so be very careful about how long you hold it over your heat source, especially if you're using an open flame. Once that's down and nice and tight, go ahead, turn it off, and you have a nice solid connection that'll slide right through those pad eyes every time and won't hang up on you. Now it's time to mount the leash on the kayak. You remember to take the knot out of the leash. Go ahead and mount the leash where you want it. And you're going to thread the line through the pad eyes on the kayak. Go ahead and retract it all the way. There you go. Now, to take the leash, you're going to want to measure where you want this installed. I want this to hang out right about there. It's going to have no problem sliding down and pulling up. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark it. I'm going to have a nice big loop on the end so that I can connect and disconnect this weight easily. So we take the leash, push it through, pull it back through. It's not going anywhere. Go ahead, lock it down, and there you go. Now when I'm in my kayak seat and I want to anchor, I just go ahead, unlock it, and it falls down. When I want to come back up, I just lift it up in the seat, lock it in, move on to my next spot. It's that easy. Thanks for stopping by the YakAngler workshop. We'll see you out on the water.